Thank you for joining us at TAL World Kindness Day. You're at the Hunger in Emergencies, the Impact of COVID-19 on Hunger Insecurity panel. My name is Allie Gary with the Touch Life Foundation, and I am joined today by two organizations that are fighting the good fight against hunger. Before I introduce my panelists, I wanted to give some statistics to put this issue of hunger insecurity into perspective. So the fight against hunger is nothing new. Feeding America, which is the largest domestic hunger insecurity organization in the United States, was established in 1979. So this has been a long-going fight. In the United States, 1 in 9 people are food insecure. 1 in 5 children go hungry every night, and globally, 690 million people go to bed hungry. Those statistics are staggering, to say the least. I'd like to turn it over to our panelists who saw these numbers and looked to ways that they could make a difference. I'd like to start by introducing the co-founders of Hunger Mitau. Raj and Anna, can you please tell us about the Hunger Mitau campaign and what you guys are doing over in North Texas?
Definitely. Yeah, love to do that. And first of all, Ali and the TAL Association and organization, thank you very much for this opportunity. It gives us an opportunity to share in another platform to talk about the hunger issue that is so rampant worldwide, and shockingly right here in a developed country like United States. The stats that you just mentioned, we discovered that about 5 years ago, and we were shocked because we've been living here. I have been here in the United States for 46 years. Anna has been here for 38 years, and we have seen pockets of homelessness, and we heard a little bit about hunger here and there, but never to the stats that you mentioned about the 1 in 9 and 1 in 6 children going to bed hungry. So when we learned about that, Anna and I both felt that, just like how we were unaware of this thing, very likely people from our community, and we both come from India. So we said very likely people of Indian background also do not know that, because the social gatherings. Anna, you want to talk about that? Yeah,
we assumed that because, in all of our social gatherings, we would talk about everything else under the sun, right? But hunger never came up, ever. So the thought was, okay, this is something that we've discovered that most of our community members are also unaware of.
So what we decided to do at that point, we made it our mission. Both Anna and I retired from our corporate life 10 years ago. And about 5 years ago, when we discovered this hunger issue, we wrote a check, but then we said, we don't want to be one and done. We want to do something, more meaningful in this space, especially knowing that in today's day and age, somebody is going hungry. It's unacceptable. We call ourselves the modern advanced people, and yet people are going hungry. What kind of modern people are we then? So with that in mind, we launched this movement called Hunger Mitau. Hunger Mitau is a combination of an English word and an Indian word. Hunger is, of course, hunger. Mitau in India means wipe out. So we basically made it a slogan, a mission, a vision of how we can wipe out hunger right here in the United States, in the spirit of give where you live. So I just want to not take too much time, but to let you know that Hunger Mitau is not an organization. It is a movement. It is a movement to engage an entire community. In this case, we are working with the Indian American community to join forces to make an impact in the place we call home.
I think that's a very good point. Something that struck me when I was reading about your story was the fact that it's more than just the two of you seeing a problem and looking to volunteer. You are really bringing in the community, and it's become a community movement, because I think that there's something to be said for recognizing that we're all in this together. And to bring people in, there is a power to getting everyone involved. And sometimes I think that when you are engaging people and they are part of the solution, it becomes more important to them, and then they are more willing to participate and give. I'd like to turn it over to Ben and James from the FarmLink project, which was established back in March. March may seem like 3 years ago now, but it's only been a few months. How are you guys?
Hi, Ali. We're doing great. Thank you. Yeah, to speak a little bit about the FarmLink project. Yeah, James and I would love to talk about the early days. We actually didn't come together formally and do our first delivery until April 16th, I think. But what happened was similar to Anna and Raj, we hadn't really known about the systemic issues with food waste and food insecurity until they were kind of just put so consistently in front of our face throughout the early pandemic. With the commercial food industry shut down, we had farmers across the country throwing away or plowing under millions of pounds of food, and at the same time food banks facing the longest lines they'd seen in decades. And we kind of realized that in a way those two problems solve each other. One place has too much food and one place didn't have enough. And that's been the central pillar of our entire process, is moving surplus and unmarketable produce from farms to communities in need. And I think similar to most projects like this, it started out small, and we actually, James, you want to tell them about our first, couple deliveries?
Yeah, I mean, so we were sent home from school, and I just kind of remember, I think a lot of you guys remember that time as kind of the first of the lockdowns, and you just were at home and you had this feeling of like being pretty helpless, honestly, as you're seeing all these problems just unfold. And like Ben kind of talked about there, all of a sudden you're seeing these mile-long images at food banks, blocking highway passes. And at the same time, you're watching as millions of gallons of milk are being dumped out each day. It just didn't make any sense. And that was what we tried. We said, hey, our local food bank, they are really struggling right now to meet the demand. What can we do to help? And as college students, we didn't have that much money to donate, but we did have his time. And so we just started calling as many farmers as we could. And probably the 201st call, the farmer, he had surplus eggs. And at the time we didn't have transportation or anything. We rented a box truck ourselves, went and picked it up and just drove it to our local food bank. And kind of from there, friends kind of saw that we did that, and they wanted to do the same thing, and they wanted to get involved, and they wanted to bring it to their city. I mean, pretty soon, like you guys said, this wasn't an organization. It was a movement of young people standing up to do something about this crisis. And I'll pass it back to Ben, just kind of talk about what we've been doing since then.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't really changed from the start of this whole process. We have a team committed to conducting outreach, researching farms that we might want to get in touch with, and then straight up just cold calling or emailing or doing whatever we can to get in contact with them and learn about their situation and how we might be able to work together. We raise funds externally to be able to pay farmers and truck drivers. It's never market price, but our existence is, if a farmer is facing the decision between throwing away food and calling us, we want it to make sense for them to call us. And so we have a partnership with Uber Freight that allows us to move, full trucks of food all over the country. And I think that a silver lining of us starting the FarmLink project over Zoom, across the country, is that we didn't start in one area and then grow nationally. We just started nationally. I mean, I'm in Providence, James is in California, and we've got about 150 people scattered in between us. And so it really doesn't feel like there's a single, area or region that we serve. And that's been, amazing for not really feeling like we're restricted in any way. And on the flip side, once we source the food, we've developed relationships with communities, food banks and school systems and church groups and other hunger relief programs that have allowed us to really be mobile and flexible and respond to need where we believe it's the most present. And so it's been a great experience. Today we are currently approaching 15 million pounds of food moved, and I think 45 states. We'd love to hit 50 states, and I think that's a goal. That's a goal to accomplish by the end of the year. But it's been an amazing experience, and we're really proud and grateful.
That's incredible. I was very excited to have both of you guys on this panel because both movements, we're going to say, not organizations, movements, are fighting for the same thing. But the way that you guys have established yourselves are really very different. With Raj and Anna, you really started in the community, and in a time when you were connecting, you said you were connecting with people one-on-one at Starbucks, and it kind of built out through those personal connections. But in 2020, we really were restricted. You couldn't go out into the community to have those conversations. So the way that Ben and James, you were able to establish this virtual community during this time is really quite impressive. I wanted to ask both of you, all four of you, okay, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing with getting people involved during the COVID-19 pandemic? Obviously, you guys with FarmLink, you saw the challenges having to connect with people virtually. Anna and Raj, have you guys been experiencing issues with volunteering, since there are a lot of people who can't be out to volunteer in person anymore?
Absolutely. And yes, that is one of the biggest issues. So there's a couple of issues that we've noticed since March. Donations, food donations to the food bank kind of dried up for a while because everybody in the community was hoarding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we are hoarding, the grocery stores didn't have anything left over to donate to the food banks. You know, so everybody was kind of in panic mode. So, you know, that happened, and then volunteering stopped because who wanted to be out there in times of social distancing? I know North Texas Food Bank had to call in the National Guard because they still needed volunteers. Their whole distribution system changed. Some of the smaller pantries that they used to distribute food out of, those small pantries were shut down because they didn't have the wherewithal to be able to do social distancing for their volunteers, etc. So now the food bank kind of had to re-engineer their distribution system, right?
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that what Anna just mentioned to you and Ali, as you said, you know, March onward, everybody's lives basically went upside down, right, because of the pandemic. February 29th is the date when we launched Hunger Meetup in Seattle on the leap day. And we were going to stay in Seattle for a little bit longer to meet, you know, stay with the community and answer any questions, do more awareness sessions there, etc. But because of the pandemic, we had to cut short our trip and come back home. And from then on, we have been in a lockdown mode and realizing that all these issues that the food bank was facing, lack of volunteering, food drive, you know, food getting, you know, basically they're running out of food over there to give out to the needy. You know, Anna and I, we said, okay, how can we help virtually?
Mm-hmm.
So what we did was we launched this thing called Funds for Food Drive, an online portal within the food bank system. So we didn't go out and create a GoFundMe where a good part of money goes to another you know, platform. So working within the food bank using their system, we created a page and then we campaigned the heck out of it across the Indian American community. I mean, and it was basically reaching out to them and saying, folks, if you want to make a difference today, you know, don't go out and risk yourselves buying food at Walmart and then donating it, because we don't want you to get out there. And plus the economies of scale, right? I mean, the food bank can actually provide 3 meals to $1 because of their this volume and size and the capacity and reach.
And we also highlighted that, you know, please don't pick up everything that's on the shelves. There are your neighbors are looking for food too. So the best way to help right now would be to donate money.
Right. So we started that in March, and again, basically, and then we, what
I think Raj became Facebook's heaviest user.
I mean, basically, social media, we use the heck out of it. Zoom sessions. Taking a page from Ben and James' book. Basically, we just said, okay, educate ourselves on the technology platform, the latest and greatest one. Insert ourselves into every Zoom event that would invite us to give us a plug for 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever time frame, and talk about the hunger issue. And the best way to help is to donate to the food bank. And in 3 months, we raised $250,000 just in North Texas.
Just in North Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
people who were willing to help, they were just kind of at their wits' ends. So for the first time, it felt like, okay, hunger in America that used to be very hidden suddenly came into our living rooms through the television sets, right? We all saw the long lines of people. So it didn't require convincing anymore.
In a way, it made our lives a little bit easier, because whenever we in the past talked about hunger issue, people shook their head. There was disbelief.
Yeah.
Because people had not seen, hunger or hungry people. But now, whenever you change channels, whenever you're looking at the news, you're seeing miles long people, people like us, standing there or waiting in their cars for hours, just get one box of food.
And I have to say this, coming from India, we've had a different mental model about hunger, right? We associate hunger with homelessness, which is so not true in the US.
Right.
Most of the people who need food assistance, and Feeding America will tell you that, have a permanent address.
Right.
They have a roof over their heads, but they're underpaid, they're laid off, or they've got a medical issue. So there's just not enough for them to make their ends meet.
Right. And they have to make a decision between mortgage, medicine, and food. And almost always food is what suffers, and which is basically kicking the can down the road, because see, one of the things why we like working with the food bank is because not only they provide food to the needy, they actually provide nutritious meals to the needy.
Yeah, that's a big emphasis.
That is a very big emphasis, so, and again, thanks to what Ben and James are doing, because a lot of the farm products, from egg to dairy to potatoes, etc. These are all important element of a nutritious meal.
Yeah.
That they are making sure that they don't get destroyed, and they get to the food bank. So food bank can actually ensure that what is being sent out to the needy is not just bags of chips or whoever donated the most, but a balanced meal. Right. That will ensure that they are nutritious and healthy.
So those are the challenges, definitely not being able to kind of motivate the community to go volunteer together. We couldn't do that, right? But we found other ways.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think that you brought up a couple of good points about the importance of, it's not just the quantity of food, but the quality of food is very important. And you brought up the number of people who are food insecure now. It's not that our homeless population has necessarily increased, but with the COVID-19 pandemic and with layoffs and with decreased hours, Feeding America actually estimates that 54 million people in the United States will be food insecure this year.
Yes.
Which is, again, just staggering statistic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to bring it back to Ben and James, because while you guys were looking at this issue, you really brought up an interesting fact that it's not an issue of there not being enough food available. It's the accessibility to food. It's getting that food from the farm to the food banks, and really your focus on decreasing food waste is a very important piece to this whole fight against hunger. Can you tell us a little bit about that initiative and that research?
Yeah, absolutely. This is kind of the absurdity of this is that this isn't just because of the pandemic. This was happening long before. But the reality is that we grow enough food to feed every single person on this planet, and yet every year a third of that food is going to go to waste. And like almost 1 billion people go hungry. And then even here in the US, roughly 20 billion pounds of food is left on the field. It doesn't even get off of the farm. When that's going on in your system, and at the same time, just 20 minutes down the road, you have all these people going hungry, that doesn't make sense in a country like the United States, nor does it make sense anywhere in the world. And so that's like, and I think Ben can talk a little more about this, but what we've been trying to do is provide a way for people to fight against that absurdity. And because we came up during the pandemic, we've done this entirely virtually. So we're trying to provide a path so that you can fight this from your living room. That's kind of the idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually, in response to what Anna and Raj were talking about as well, someone who ran a food bank told me that in underdeveloped countries, you might see food insecurity represent itself through the form of starvation, and in further developed countries, food insecurity represents itself through the form of obesity and just a general lack of nutrition. And that is why we are so happy to be able to be moving farm fresh food, because we think that if we can be saving that food and that's the food that we're providing people, it's that much more meaningful. And to James's point, we want to create the most accessible way of fighting this as we possibly can. And with that, we have, in the same way that we started over Zoom, been opening up the FarmLink project to anyone who wants to join, where people can sign up through our website and participate in farms to reach out to, actually conducting those initial calls. And it's on Zooms with us doing exactly what we did to move our first pound up to our 14 millionth pound. And so that's all of FarmLink. And so if people can help us with that, then you don't need to have money to donate, or you don't need to put yourself necessarily in a uncomfortable situation. You can do it from your bedroom, hop on a Zoom with a group of young students and professionals and help make a difference.
I was going to ask you, what is your recruiting process? Is it, friends, family, fellow students that are participating, and then it's gone out to their networks, or how are you kind of recruiting your network?
Sure. Well, at the start, I think it is unsurprising that it was easiest to bring in, supportive friends and family. But now we realize how important it is that we have, perspective and a community of people that are from all over the country and all different walks of life that can really help us understand better how we can be providing for the communities that we serve and the farmers that we work with. And so our recruitment process is, there's no recruitment process to join the FarmLink project through our power hours. Anyone can do that. And then to join the internal team, it's just a matter of getting to know us a little bit better. And I think having the same drive and passion for what we're doing that we have.
Absolutely. I want to open up this question to the floor. I understand that your motivation to help with hunger was you saw the need, you saw the lines, you saw the statistics, which again, just staggering, and you had a drive to help. What do you tell people when you're recruiting them? Is it the statistics that drives them? Is it a need to promote kindness and do more? What do you think is the motivation for your donors and participants?
I think the statistics are definitely eye-opener. So having information about what is the hunger issue looks like clearly gets their attention. The need for kindness, frankly speaking, is something that has to come from within them. So it is our mission, our goal to basically generate that need within them. So we share all this information about the statistics so that they are not ignorant about the hunger issue right there, right where they live. Secondly, I would like to add that as immigrants to this land, you know, this country has done so much for us, given us opportunities, right? I mean, I came here 46 years ago. My first job, I was a dishwasher at a hospital in Michigan. I retired 10 years ago as the chief strategy officer for Ross Perot's company, Perot Systems, which was sold to Dell. I mean, to go from dishwasher to chief strategy officer, I mean, I credit, of course, my education and upbringing and value system I learned from India, but clearly the opportunity, the professionalism, the things that this country, gave me, I believe that each one of us, we have to look at it that, yes, we have our motherland back home, which we have to be caring for. But this is also the country that has given so much to us. Plus, the fact that this is the motherland for your children. Anna and I have 2 boys, 3 grandchildren, and they're not moving back to India. So, what can we do to help them get integrated? My view about integration, that just the term integration is a very loosely used term. But the way you integrate people is when your pain becomes their pain, or their pain becomes your pain, right? Then you have integrated. When their issues are your issues, you are integrated, right? Or else if you always look at, oh, well, this country has issues. What do you mean by this country has issues? This is your country, you're living here. Let's start addressing them. So I'm kind of going on the philosophical track here, but both Anna and I feel that all immigrant communities, we have to take a ownership to the country that we live in, and by movements like this, get engaged. And the beauty of getting engaged, that doesn't mean you have to always donate money. I mean, look at the example of what Ben and James are doing, right? They saw a need, they jumped in action, and they mobilized people. We saw a need, we jumped in action, and we said, hey, you cannot give money, that's okay. How about coming and giving 2 hours of volunteering? Because without volunteering, the food bank cannot operate. So basically, there are multiple ways, what do you say?
We need to become a part of the solution, and that's what we tell the Indian American community. And I would even widen it to include all immigrant communities.
Totally.
We all know of issues and causes and needs back in the countries we came from. And it's great to support those, right? But we live here. I mean, you have to give where you live. Otherwise, what is this country? I mean, this country needs to benefit from your presence too.
Yeah.
Right? So, that's our appeal to people.
No, absolutely. I think that, I know you said you're getting philosophical, but I think that is the crux of everything we're doing here. And the purpose of this day and this event is to talk about that message exactly. The idea that kindness has power, and the idea that everyone can help someone in some way, and making giving, donation, a part of your routine and part of your kind of everyday life, rather than being something you do, on occasion. It's
right.
Something that everyone can do.
Truly.
Ali, that's exactly what we use to try and motivate people to get involved in a similar way. For donors, it's, your dollar is going to help us provide 8 to 10 meals to communities in need. And for participants, it's, in 1 hour from home, you could potentially be rescuing hundreds of thousands of pounds of food and feeding thousands of people. And it's all about making it so that it's as accessible as possible for people to do whatever they can to be making a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think that this has been an incredible discussion. I think the two perspectives that we've had from your two organizations, it really puts this whole issue of hunger into the problem. I'd love to give you each an opportunity to speak to our audience, because I'm hoping that they are inspired by your story as I am. How can they participate with your movement? How can they get involved?
So Ali, we, Anna and I, we started this Hunger Mitao movement with the Indian American community. However, we started here in North Texas, but now we have scaled it across the country. It is our vision that this can not be only scaled across the country with the Indian American community, but it can also be scaled across to other communities. So we templatize everything. Our entire Hunger Mitao model, how to engage with the food bank, how to engage your community, our 4 impact pillars of awareness, volunteering, food drive, donations. The entire thing is templatized, and we would love to share this with other communities so they can also get engaged. I believe that communities play the role of the last mile in the fight against hunger. Government can do only so much. Food banks can do only so much. The food pantries can only do so much. Until the communities step up and say, nobody in my community where I live will go hungry. Unless they take a resolve like that, we will always have hunger around us. So we believe this Hunger Mitao model can now be leveraged across the Jewish community, the Chinese community, the LGBTQ community, any group of people that call themselves the community. Ours is an open source model. That's what we call it. So we would love to share this. And we are looking for leaders from different communities to step up and say, hey, Raj, Anna, can you help us? And we will not only provide that template to them, we'll connect them with the food banks. We'll also provide mentorship in the early days. And since both of us have dedicated our lives to this, that's what our vision is to spread this across all communities and let everybody get involved. And that is, I believe, the way we will solve this hunger issue.
And Ali, since March, obviously we haven't been able to travel around the US and kind of spearhead this project in other cities. But what we decided to do was, we have a very strong relationship with Feeding America. And through that, if Hunger Mitao is not in your city working with your local food bank, we are working with Feeding America. So people can still donate at a Feeding America level, right?
Yeah.
That's how, I would just request everybody to get engaged somehow. And the other day we were on a webinar where we heard somebody say, if you've ever wanted to donate, this is the time. Don't save your philanthropy dollars for a rainy day fund. This is the rainy day, right?
Yeah.
So please do something.
This was the chief strategy officer of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He said this statement. He said that, his closing remarks on that webinar was just exactly what Anna said, that don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't be on the sideline. This is the time of need. And frankly, all of us know, right? The second wave has started, right? The numbers are shooting up. There's one other stat that I heard, and that scares the heck out of me. They believe, while 54 million people is what Feeding America is predicting this year, they believe that the way this thing is going, 40% of United States, 40% of people will not know where the next meal is coming from. And that is scary.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I think it's time for those who can get involved, who can make a difference. We need you all. Yeah, join Ben and James, join Hunger Mitao, whichever way you want to get involved. Get involved, make a difference.
Yeah. And people can find out more at www.hungermitao.org.
And we will make sure to include a link at the bottom of this panel, so everybody can go check out and join the movement. Because like you said, now is the time. Ben and James, how can people get involved?
Yeah, I think just what you guys are talking about is so important, that we can't just wait, and we can't. The government, they're going to figure this out. They're going to address this. We can't wait even for the larger nonprofits. Hey, they're going to take care of this. Now is the time that everyday people need to get up and help their neighbors. That is what it's going to take to like actually make a difference in this. It's not kind of sitting from afar and hoping that someone else is going to kind of address this. And so with that, like what we're trying to provide, if you go to farmlandproject.org, and for just an hour, pop on, call farmers, find surplus, and that can help feed thousands of people. You can like instantly get, 40,000 pounds of broccoli from a volunteer who may have no experience doing something like this. That's like the kind of the magic of this thing, is that everyone genuinely can make an amazing difference in so many people's lives. And I'll pass it to Ben just to kind of carry on that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is we have no competitors in this space. We all have the same mission and the same goal here. And so in the same way that we're excited to be sharing the information, resources, and engagement, engagement materials that Hunger Matau is able to provide, we want to be able to offer their community a way to get involved when people can't leave their homes or don't have an opportunity to. And so in a similar way, that's what we're trying to do with everyone we meet in this space. There's no need to be, hoarding resources when they could be more powerful when compounded. And so the biggest thing that we're doing, and what Hunger Matau is doing, and what a lot of these groups are trying to do right now, is just raise awareness to the fact that this is a systemic issue that is central to, the heart of America, and it's really important. And we thank you and Touch Life and everyone else for giving us an opportunity to speak about that.
Thank you all. It has been a pleasure, an honor to talk to you. Like I said, you have inspired me with your stories. I'm sure our listeners and viewers have been inspired as well. A reminder that we will put all of the links at the bottom of the screen. So guys, go check it out, do your research, join the fight, take the pledge, and make a difference in your community. Thank you so much.